Okay, so that seems to be working. Good. Hello and welcome. This is Kevin, also known as AWOL, and today we're going to do something different for a change. How about that? 9 months of working on one project, and suddenly here I am doing something else. Feels good. Hang on, let me. Something's up with my camera. Little too tall or something there. Weird. Okay. Um, I want to remind everybody before we get going on that we are still doing the secret word game. That has not been a winner yet, so that's something that is sort of cool, and that maybe you guys can win. Other than that, we're gonna get going with uh, this. I consider this to be a relatively simple bracelet, but there's going to be some chances to explore a couple extra different things here. So let me just show you. So how I like to do this now. Mind you, I always thought this was the fish bracelet, but apparently it's a dove's tail. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my strings in a sequence here, and I'm starting with my darkest one first, and then I'm going to go to my absolute lightest one next. And you'll have to kind of see how this is. I went with a fade of colors, and you'll kind of see why I do it this way. I've done this way since like the 80s. All right, so then it's the next color. And I'm just going over the whole group, minus the first ones I did, to be able to make it so it has this really nice start to it. I always think that that looks best. So it's just a little trick you can do. Don't have to do it. I just prefer to. I don't want to seem too presumptuous or something. All right. Now, so these two darkest ones, we're going to try to bring the loop in a little closer there. So we're going to start with the chevron. So this bracelet basically assumes that you know how to make a knot that goes to the right, as well as knowing how to make a knot that goes to the left. All right, so we're going to start with going to the right. No particular reason, just feel like it. All right. And I like to start these off really nice and firmly tight because it kind of helps sets up the whole rest of the bracelet with a nice, good start, a nice foundation to the bracelet. Otherwise, it can be a little sloppy. I don't really like that word, but yeah. So I'm going to take this dark green that I'm using, and I'm going to go all the way to the very end and just lay it off to the side. And then I'm going to go back to the middle, and I'm going to go to do the same thing for the other side. Seems to be caught on the clip. All right, there we go. And the important part is, okay, mind you, I did the left-hand side. I got it started earlier just to kind of save time. I wanted to show you how I did it, but then I didn't want to spend too long actually working on it. So I'm just making this a chevron all the way to the very end. Now, when I first learned how to make a bracelet, when I first learned how to do the left-handed knot, this is what I had. I had a series of chevrons coming down. And what I wanted to know was there a way of making the chevron, instead of coming this direction, could I make it come this direction? And the thought suddenly hit me that if I take the next row and I don't go all the way to the end, I bring it all the way to where this one had left off, which is here. If I bring it all the way to there and stop, I could then turn it around the other direction. So let's do that. Essentially, it will make the sorry, my wife is trying to hit me up with something here. It will make it go to, hang on. Okay, so we go all the way to the end. There, boom. Now the next one, it's just going to keep getting a little bit smaller each time. Go to the other side here. Apparently I can't see the chat. My wife is losing her mind. Let's see if I can do this. All right. So now we're going to do the other side. And again, this is just going to go not to the very end, not to the very edge of the bracelet, but stop before we get to the end. Right? And now here's where it could be kind of handy. I have a set of clips on either side of my board. And if you just like kind of lay those off to the side, you know that you're not using them until later, right? Okay, so now this next one, it just gets a little smaller and a little smaller and a little smaller. And this is just going to help it to taper in. And yes, Amanda, I did mention that in this live stream, the secret word game is still in effect. Yeah. I'm trying to create a tutorial out of my live stream, so you'll have to bear with me, guys. Later on, I'm going to chop this up and take out all of the silly parts. All right. You'll notice as I go back and forth, I stay on the side that I was working on. It doesn't save a lot of time, but every time you save a little bit of time, you'll just make it go a little bit faster. So you'll notice I was working on the left-hand side. I will continue doing the left-hand side. And that's a good practice to be in, whether you're doing a small bracelet or something large, is stick to the area you're working on. The little moments that you save will add up. All right. Back to the right-hand side. It's also good when you're doing something like this, especially if you're doing like fades and stuff, if you get used to the notion that it was 3 to the left and then only 2 to the right in the same row, because the center one doesn't get done a second time over. Sometimes when the colors are really, really super close, it can become really troublesome to figure out where you are. So knowing how the pattern works, knowing how many knots you expect to have will actually come into play, and that'd be very helpful. And then there's just the one in the center. Now at this point, we can go ahead and make the chevron going the other direction. All right. And mind you, when I first figured this out, to me, this was like the greatest epiphany of beginning of making a design. And I'll kind of show you how this kind of evolved and how it turned into the pattern that I knew as the fish design. All right. We're going to bring down the the right-handed knots over on the left-hand side of the bracelet. And you'll see that we end up with a diamond that sort of got this interesting little fish scale effect going on in it. So, if we're going to try to keep this pattern repeating, obviously we have to work on the sides. However, if I were to do the same thing that we just did in the middle here, down the sides, this dark color could easily be the same color that ends up going again. And anybody who has done, bracelets know that if you use one color over all the rest, it'll get used up so really quickly. So in this particular pattern, what we do is the next color here goes all the way to the middle, and it becomes the dominant color this time around. Now, why did I do the dark one first and now it's the lightest going on, and it will progressively get darker as it goes on? Because this light one will be a full part of the pattern, where that dark one that we started with is just the diamond. This one is going to have the tail with it. And if I started out this way, it'll go from the lightest to the darkest throughout the whole rest of the bracelet. So now I'm going to bring down the other side and show you how this is going to lead towards being the next chevron, right? So basically what we want to do is we want to have the chevron just like the chevron that we started with, all right? So obviously, in order to do that, we're going to end up working on the sides. So let me just bring this down. There. Now that since we're working on the right hand side, let's continue that, and I'm going to set the lightest strings off to the side because I don't want to go too far when I bring this row down. And again, this is just going to be just like what we did in the middle part of that first diamond, with all the rows just getting a little bit shorter. Now, for the more expert, I guess, bracelet makers, this would be a nice pattern to use with the straight edge design. I don't like calling it that because if you tie your knots right, any bracelet will be straight edged. But if you have that extra string running along the edge, you will get one extra knot, which means that dark color will show up at the end. The way this is set up, it won't. So it looks a little bit cooler if you do that. Right. And a little bit shorter. So you can see it was 4, then 3, then 2, and then 1. And you'll notice like the darkest color does not show up, which is unfortunate because it would look pretty cool here, being how this is a really great fade and all. So now I can bring this light color. Again, we're trying to make this the same chevron as before, right? So this goes all the way up to the right, all the way to the end. And now we do the same with the other side. So again, take the light one, set it off to the side, because in the heat of woohoo, we're getting something done, you don't want to go too far and have to take out knots. So there we go. And again, it's 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, hello everybody. Sorry, I'm really trying to do a new thing here where I'm going to actually use some of the live footage towards doing a clipped up shorter tutorial. So kind of bear with me uh, because this is going to lead to what is going to be the next big project. And obviously when we get into the next big project, I kind of want anybody to be able to follow along. And so I kind of need a beginner's tutorial to show how this pattern works, because this is actually what is going into the next thing. So kind of bear with me. I know I'm kind of zoned into my thing here, but there's a whole method to this madness. All right. So now that we have the left-hand side kind of down here like this, I'm going to go ahead and bring this one out to the end. And you kind of notice that the bracelet's sort of jumping around a bit because of the way that it's in the clip. We can fix that by just simply getting the bracelet just a little bit higher into the clip. So that kind of stops that nonsense right there. All right, so now we have basically the same chevron here as we had at the very beginning. So what we will do is do the same thing again with bringing the parts down. And again, we don't go all the way to the edge with this. We want to stop just before the edge. Like that. And if it helps you at all, you can just set those off to the sides, and it'll just make it a little bit less tempting to accidentally tie a knot to a string that you didn't intend on doing. And it's really easy. If you have clips like this, you can use this piece here as a means to just sort of hold the strings off to the sides for you. It's a pretty easy way of doing it. I find it to be incredibly helpful. I actually have some new ones coming in soon from Jet Pen, which actually go sideways instead of up and down. So I can't wait for that to arrive here. And again, we just kind of keep going to the side that we were on and bring each of the sides down. This one has 4 knots. So when we get to the other side, it'll be 3. And you don't want to necessarily like clip the strings to the side too hard or anything. You want to be able to let the strings kind of move around, and you're pulling tension and stuff. So you might you don't want to like disfigure the bracelet because you have it pinned down too hard or something. All right. Mind you, I hope that the live chat version of my tutorial here will be a more in-depth, because when I shorten it down, I suspect there'll be a lot of stuff that I don't quite cover as much. So making it a little bit more valuable to hang out with the live. Plus the live has the chance to win. So more reason to hang out with the live stream. But I still want to have a shorter version for people who just don't have time for this sort of thing. And then the one in the middle. All right. And now we bring this back down to the middle again. And there we have the lightest of the 6 colors. Mind you, I think when I used to make this back in the 80s, I think I only used 5 colors, which was a little bit of a skinnier bracelet. And I think it had to do with the kind of embroidery floss I could get at Kmart. The fades typically didn't have as many colors. So I was going with rainbows. I was going with what little fades they had. It was just a limit to the strings and stuff. Now again, like I was saying, I was doing this in the 80s, so obviously there was no internet, and there was no tutorials, none of that kind of stuff. There wasn't even a book out for friendship bracelets. So when I got to here on making this, I saw something interesting. I wonder if you could see it. It's the same shape as the fish that people put on the back of their cars in the license plate, right? This whole diamond here with a tail coming out to both sides. And when I do the other video, I will include a picture of it, so you guys will actually be able to see what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's why I don't see this as a dovetail. This is a fish. It's right there. Okay. So now I've given you the basis. Everything about this repeats. This one obviously come all the way to the center again. Everything is going to repeat. But I also wanted to do this bracelet in this tutorial, not only because I'm going to be making this as a much larger design. This is a good way of teaching segment knotting, which is all about trying to capitalize on momentum and to doing things the fastest way possible. So with that in mind, let me show you a different way than what we were just doing. All right, we know that this one is going to go all the way to the center, so we will go ahead and do that. And since we know that staying with the areas that you're working on makes for a little time saved, what we will do is we will go ahead and we will fill in this whole right side. See, before we had gotten the whole middle thing taken care of or whatever. This time it's a little bit different. And obviously, since I'm going to be working on a much bigger project, I will be choosing to try to find methods that help to maximize my time at the clipboard, because obviously I don't want my project to go on for too long. Not if I don't have to. Shoot. The ends got tangled there. All right. So now I finished the entire right side, and now because we know that this one was going to go not just to the middle, but actually all the way across, just like how this is up here, we can actually go ahead and make one pass all the way from one side to the other with this screen. Right across the middle, and just keep on going. All right, now, because we're doing it this way, the important step that you want to make sure that you don't mess up is finding where that color was that is going to be going off to the left-hand side now on this one, and making sure you set it aside because you don't have that natural stopping point. Now, if you're really new to doing bracelets, you might want to go with the way that I showed you in the first setup, because it's a whole lot easier to see where to start and stop to. This way is a little bit more advanced, but it is much, much quicker. So that's kind of the trade-off, is it may be faster, but there is a potential for error. Mind you, like I said before, though, if you know that there's only 4 knots and then 3, 2, 1, if you know that, then you're less likely to make the mistake because you'll actually know the count. You don't have to rely on looking for color or other visual clues. And again, this is a great pattern for a fade. Mind you, it can look great even if you just pick random colors per se. You know, as long as the colors go well with each other, um, it doesn't have to be this way, but all right. So now at this point, I can bring this one out. And you can see, so in segment knotting, the whole gist was we did one side, we do the other side, then we do the middle. And then it's just going to keep doing that, just working on one area at a time, to kind of maximize our time with the knots and the strings that we're handling. And this is it. This is how you do it. I understand that there are some people out there who would take a pattern and follow each one of the rows coming down and doing whatever is necessary to those rows. This is if you're used to that and you want to learn how to segment, this is a great pattern to kind of kick that off with. And since you kind of can see how doing each of the different segments or of the piece, the middle, the right, the left, then the middle again, that those same kind of rules can be applied to most different designs. You just kind of have to find where and how to optimize it. And I think at this point, I'm going to be able to speed this up for the other people. So yes, this is going to be huge. And I can't remember how many cm we said these cushions are going to be. Do you remember? Yeah. So it's like 40 cm wide by 40 cm. And yes, it's going to be essentially, this is the pattern. In fact, I think that it's got the same number of colors, or same number, strings, colors. Same number of colors, just going to repeat itself many, many, many times over. And this is why I have to stress that if you can learn how to do segment knotting, how this will definitely save time, because it really is just a whole lot easier to work on an area instead of trying to go row by row. I was recently asked about segment knotting over on YouTube, so I figure this is a perfect way of teaching it. Thank you, Riley. It's something I enjoy doing, so. There. And again, it'll just keep repeating down. And like I said, I just bring this all the way down, bring the other all the way down, and that's it. All right, take a break from this. I'm going to show you a different variation on this. But before we go, this is what everybody's talking about. There is the final for the wall hanging. And crazy thing is the wood that's going to actually be used for mounting this thing that goes behind it. It just arrived here the other day, and it wasn't until I was looking at the piece of wood that I actually realized how big this thing is, because the wood goes from the floor to my collarbone, and I'm 193 cm tall. So I'm not a short man by any stretch. And this wood comes all the way up, like I said, to my collarbone. It's huge. And it wasn't until then that I realized that, wow, this thing is enormous. Um, Let me show you this. This is a picture from kind of the early 90s, 91. This is where I was playing around with the dovetail and starting to get kind of wide. So this is kind of what we're going to be getting into with the new next project. And I left it up to my Patreon people to pick out the colors for the next project. And today I just spent I don't know, an hour or more cutting up 60 skeins, and there it is on the wall getting ready to go to work. So that is something else that's kind of interesting. Um, this is a hat, and mine is already on orders coming soon. So if you were interested in my merch, the I think you can just put in shop and the robot will actually tell you how to get to it. So you can check that out. That's something new besides the t-shirts. And then the secret word game. Yes, we are still playing secret word game. Somebody's got to try to win that thing. So yeah. And then we have, we're going to talk about cool merch. We have these. This is being made from the leftover string from the big project. These are 6 bracelets that I'm putting together out of the leftover stuff. There'll only be the 6. I'm not going to order more of these colors. I'm not going to make any more. There's no point in trying to do a exclusive if you're going to turn around and break the deal or whatever. So yeah, there's just the 6 of them. And believe me, I will be more than happy to be done with the particular project in general. So that is what it is. All right. So on with the next one. So just like the last time, I put the darkest color than the lightest in this. This is more of a yellow to red to brown mix we got going on here. So the other bracelet, obviously that has a certain style to it and it's really nice. But I wanted to show you that there's a little alternate thing that you can do to change up the pattern. If you get tired of the first version, then you can try the second. Just something different. So again, this is just starting out exactly the same way. We basically start with a single chevron. Mind you, back when I first used to do this, I used to go through the whole series of colors first, get a small chevron of all of them before going into the pattern, which had a slightly different kind of look to it. But then, you know, at some point or another, I kind of wanted the other part of the pattern to kind of be more dominant, so I kind of skipped that. But yes, Rainbow, those were the colors that you voted for on Patreon. It was going to be the reds and stuff or the blues. So all right, so this one, what is different is we start with just a single in the middle and we just keep adding and adding as we go along. And essentially what this does is those little boxes that we had, it reverses the direction that those little fish scale looking things, which direction they point. And I have to say, when you guys take a look, because obviously I'm going to finish the bracelets up for the shortened video. You'll have to compare the two and tell me what you think. Yeah, this is sort of an autumn sort of theme here. I've worked with the same colors for 9 months. Trust me, I wanted something different. And again, the whole segmenting thing still holds true for this. Even though we've changed one aspect, we can still kind of stick to the same thing of concentrating one side, then the other side, then the center, and just keep going with it. It really will save you a whole lot of time and stress if you learn how to segment. I honestly, because I learned this way, I kind of found it difficult to imagine that some people don't use this kind of methodology, but um, learning how some people are doing it because it's all they've known um, kind of troubles me. I want to help them. I want them to see how much easier bracelet making can be. Why would you be that surprised, Amanda? I think I've used every kind of color combinations from all kinds of different sorts of inspiration. Like that kind of stuff, obviously there's, you know, magazine spreads of it, and yeah, I'm sure I've used them at some point for whatever various things, especially since that would make a nice fade. So yeah. That's true. Alpha patterns actually do require you to do one row at a time. But yeah, like I said, I found out somebody that's been doing it and didn't understand how to do it any other way, um, which just trips me up. I just can't even. They uh, they got a hold of me asking how to do it differently. Slide this just up a little bit. So this time, the ones off to the side, kinda. Oh wait, I have to. Getting ahead of myself because this pattern works differently. I need to have the one color that's gonna come out go out. I knew something looked wrong. Okay. Let me bring this one in. Yeah, there's been literally hundreds and hundreds of bracelets that never made it to the portfolio, that never made it to um, getting photos or anything. Like there were ages where, because some of the earliest ones, those were from Kinko's, and it cost me $1 to get a color copy. So, um, yeah, it was there was a long duration where I didn't have much money, and so I was just making the bracelets and selling them as quick as I could. Had a bundle of them I would drag along with me and just sell wherever I was. All right. Again, this is another one where it just would be a whole lot better if you had that extra string on the edge, because you miss out on one of the colors um, on the sides. It's not so bad when you have it doubled and tripled or whatever, but it's on this when you do the skinny one, you miss out on a little something. So and now this one will go all the way across. So essentially, it's the same basic, like setting down certain rules, like how you're going to make the string behave, and then follow those rules, and you'll end up with a pattern. So in this particular case, it's relatively the same as what we were doing with the green one. The difference being that the way that the chevrons inside of the diamonds and to the sides for that matter are just simply going the other direction. So next week, the plan is I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to double this pattern, and then from that I'll explain why we're not doubling the pattern that way, because yeah, there's a different way, and that's I will show you the different way on the actual big project itself. So we're just a couple weeks away from me doing the insane thing of taking on something gigantic again. So we did the whole left side. Now I just concentrate on the right hand side. And before it was like 4, 3, 2, 1, and now this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, not quite as gigantic as that. No, it's going to be, actually, I will likely be able to have it done in a month is the estimate we're giving, but we'll see. It's still pretty big. I mean, I see what other people do on Instagram. I follow, friendship bracelets and stuff. Comparatively speaking, it's stupid big. It just happens to be that I've done the all-time biggest stupid big, so it won't be that bad. Now the fishtail is done, and now to do the center part. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the hat. I'm like, I thought the having a t-shirt and stuff was cool, but the hat, I'm really excited. Oh, and you have to check this out. I'm actually wearing one of the original AKA AWOL shirts from back when I was primarily focused on web design. This was the merch I was doing back then. I should actually do a collage of all of the different merch from over the years. I have various mouse pads and different things. I'd be shocked if anybody else actually had this shirt. I think I was the only one that did it. Yeah, it won't be like that, but I tell you what, I have I have enough string to at least last, I would say 4 months, like without having to make any real purchases and produce some like outstanding things. So, yeah, I'm all right. I could do some crazy stuff. Like I said, I just cut 60 skeins of floss here today. And I don't even think that's enough to actually properly get the projects. Well, it'll get it started, but I don't think it's enough to get the whole first row in. Yeah, there was other various merch. There was a design where AKA AWOL was spelled in as many different kinds of crazy fonts and put in all different directions and manners, diagonal and up and down and whatever. That was all. That was pretty cool. Take care, Amanda. Now, so um, when I was saying at the beginning about if I had kept, like in this case, the dark brown, if that had kept continuing on as the more dominant color, the one that's on the outside, it would have used up all the dark brown. But because we changed it out and because it goes like this, and it'll go with the light color and then the next light color and the next one, it actually uses string really, really evenly. And that's great because it means that as you're making a bracelet, you don't have to have your strings cut really, really long in order for this to work. However, the interesting thing is because this is essentially the way the pattern is going to work on the pillows that we're making, it's going to mean that a lot of the strings are going to end up running out all at the same time. And I'm somewhat prepared for that. I've experienced it with the big project. But I can say with that experience, that was not fun. Um, so yeah, that's what's coming down the pipe later on, where you just have to deal with it as it comes. But yeah, that's it is what it is. So because this goes in a reversed order, I actually, in order to do this segment wise, I can't just do this part and then the other, because the other needs this string to be in place. Like if I just try to bring this all the way down, this string won't actually go over top of that one. So I actually need this one down to make this work. I don't know if this is gonna show up any better, but in the light color there's my fish. Can you see it? It's like, it looks like a children's drawing, but in some ways it really looks like the fish that people put on the back of their cars. I know it's a religious thing, but I always kind of cracked up because I like fish. Like, rather than thinking it was a religious thing, it's just always thought that maybe these people just like fish and they don't know. See, it needs that one knot to be able to go across the color before in order for it to work. So now yeah, it says the person who spent $100 on the fish that we have in the living room. We have angels, they're special. Yeah, that might be it. Rainbow, you might be right. But like I said, I didn't have the luxury of checking with an online community to see what they had to say. And when it suddenly hit me that there was this, Jesus fish, or, a fish or whatever in it, I was just like, that's so cool. Look, there's a fish. And that was my thing. Like, that's what I just knew this pattern as for, all these years. It wasn't until the last couple of years that somebody pointed out that it was a dovetail, and I'm like, what? Why is, like, I could see like a peacock maybe because they've got like where the tails are so decorative and bright and whatever, but not really a dove. But whatever. People what gave it a name, so yeah. Right. There you go. Of course, you're dealing with children and you can't say swallow in front of the kids without them giggling. So, you can see, just like the one before, it starts out with the lightest. Now we're into the second lightest. And yeah, it's it's a fun pattern. And if you get into the rhythm of it, it can go relatively quickly. And that's partly why I chose to use this for the next big project. Um, is this it's just going to be quicker and easy and awesome, and I kind of want to inspire the beginners to that they can do this stuff as well if they just put their mind to it. I'm going to play like I'm innocent now. Oh, so like I was saying, the the fish portion starts with the light color, right? Because you didn't quite get it with the very first one. That's why I always started out with the dark one first, was because it'll get you'll get that version when it gets all the way to the end, and I liked having it go from the fade from the light one to the dark one at the end. Like I said, you can use any colors you want. You could even do a rainbow with it, but when you do a fade, I just think it's kind of fun to start with the light to the dark or dark to the light, but doing it in a way that it's the full pattern is where it starts. So yeah. Neat thing about this one is you don't have to worry about when you get to the middle part because it just sort of fills itself in as you keep doing the rows. Ta-da! Yeah, Riley, it's good to have you back in our streams. So Riley, I was gonna get your bracelet mailed out to you, but um, I figured since the weekend was right here anyways, it wasn't gonna go anywhere, that I would give myself a couple days to try to produce the other ones because it would be nice to get a photograph of all six of them together, if nothing else, for the my portfolio to put them in, because I think it's kind of neat. This is the first time I've ever done something that as like an exclusive, like I won't be doing that pattern anymore for obvious reasons. I mean, 9 months of doing the pattern, I'm kind of, I'm past it already. Hey, there he is. All the girls have been asking about you, bro. And I'll have you know my strings are totally under control. Well, they were just asking the magic eight ball what happened to you and where you were, and the eight ball was being pretty ambiguous as far as its answer. So yeah, it's a pretty big jump from bad guy to devil. That's no magic eight ball, no hate. So some of you experienced nutters. Let me bring the other one in here. Um, was there any aspect of these designs that maybe I should have covered a little bit better or explained a little bit more? Because I really want the shortened version of this tutorial to be as helpful to whoever um, yeah, like any beginner that sees this, that like I basically that I've covered everything that there is to cover. Because yeah, I think I think it's a fun pattern. I think that should be awesome. No, Rainbow, I think you're thinking too small. You picture a something like the Magic Eight Ball, except for when you shake it up, it tells you things, like evil things. Magic 8 Ball. What should I do about that guy that's been dissing me? S- Turns it over. Magic 8 Ball says, "Murk him." Yeah, I think pretty much anybody should know how this works. But like I said, my channel seems to have been really heavily handed towards those that knew what they were doing. And I do want to kind of have some beginner stuff. Something for people who just learned how to do a left and a right, not what can they do next. This one fits that. That's awesome, Winter. I like finding random stuff that I can use. Every once in a while, I find like a whole bundle of floss that was intended for a project. Like, woohoo! I'm guessing that all this portion of the video will be all cut out for the shortened version, and then I'll just show them the finished products. So, so Phil, what time is it there? I know time zones are weird. It's only 20 past 11 here. We've been typically going to at least midnight, so. But that's, well, that was true because the big project was, never ending, so. I don't know if you've seen this yet, Phil, but that's the final product right there. The last thing that I made before taking on these smaller ones. Oh, and secret word game still going. So say the magic word and win these cool things. Minutecraft did the top bracelet there to contribute to this one. So yeah. No, Riley, I don't think I'll ever go with anything quite that big again. That was back in the 90s. I talked to an engineer and he helped me to build a yard long clamp to be able to hold bracelets because I was into the clipboard thing back then. I thought that was the only way to do it. And he helped me to build one. That was long before I realized that just a clips and a board was actually more advantageous. And so my dream has always been to have something really, really big. But now that I've done it, I think I'm kind of cool. I mean, unless somebody hit me with a price tag that said, 9 months of work is going to be financially worth it. If we're talking, if I was making a couple thousand each month, then yeah, I could see maybe doing it, but I don't honestly see anybody with that kind of deep pockets saying that they want a tapestry of that sort for their house. Yeah, I just can't even. If that ever happened, though, I mean, I would be so honored to have, somebody want something like that. But like I said, they'd have to have some pretty deep pockets to get me to do it. Um, I'm getting, I'm not getting any younger, so uh, definitely this kind of stuff kind of gets at you after a little while, especially like the long hours of sitting in a chair like this. I have to admit, this bracelet's kind of moving along pretty quickly here, so that's definitely encouraging when I think about what I'm going to be undertaking. All right, take care, Winter. So, awfully quiet around here. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was pretty focused earlier, trying to make sure that I got all the bits in so I could chop up the video and make a shorter video so that people that don't have a lot of time could get the gist out of it. So this really is a pretty easy pattern. This is something that you guys haven't tried or haven't done in a while. Definitely should pick it up. And you can see like you can kind of if it starts to bend in the wrong directions from your tension, you can kind of just straighten it up, and it really just moves and flows easily. Yeah, when we get done with this, I got a project for you there, Phil. I want something 3D printed for my fish tank. Oh, Rainbow, he makes it effortlessly, but it's just, you know, he's a pro. Just like my bracelets. It looks like, you know, it doesn't take much. Yeah, one of the big things I'm kind of curious about in this next project is going to be just exactly how far vertically I'll be able to work without having to go horizontally. Um, Basically, can I work on one area of the project, or do I have to keep going sideways, kind of like a typewriter, in order to make it work? So that's going to be an interesting thing that we're going to see as we go on. Traditionally, when I did this pattern before, I did the more styled like a typewriter, but um, I'm not sure if that for sure that it's the widest, but like that one might be the widest I've done of it. I'm not 100%, but yeah, I think it might have been. So yeah. Yeah, well, I remember typewriters. I had I had typing in school back in back in the day, back at Pontiac. And only reason I even passed it was I taught the teacher how to solve a Rubik's Cube. I still can't type very well, by the way. Yeah, well, by the time I hit high school, it was computers. We had the Apple IIe in high school. You want to really go for the whole dating thing. That was the Apple IIe with the 5-inch floppy disks. Oh my God. Speaking of, did you see that there's a TikTok challenge where kids are trying to see if they can write their name without lifting the pen up? I about died when I heard about it. Oh, Phil, get ready for your mind to be blown. Ask Mandy what else that they got to do in school that we didn't. Actually, I'm going to be interested in seeing if Riley gets blown away by this one as well. No, about ink pens, Canada, I think. Yeah, didn't we just do that? She's the one. That might be their weird way of advancing themselves. Make a challenge to do the stuff that is just normal. The one thing about the whole TikTok and all that kind of stuff is definitely making people more like the ADHD type, you know, so used to getting bombarded with stuff that, yeah, weird. Yeah, when Mandy told me that they used pens as of primary three, which is that's essentially third grade, right? Third grade onwards, they were using ink pens as opposed to using pencil all the way. I don't think we were even allowed to use pens in high school and stuff growing up. I think there was a whole thing about, they didn't want us to like writing on our desks and stuff. They just Yeah, see, Riley? Same. I thought I was gonna be interested because you were, to the northern borders there, so might have been different, but no. Wow. Yeah, the whole conversation came up because I found out that in Japan, as well as like countries like Germany, parts of Europe, they actually use pens, including fountain pens in schools. And I'm like, that just seems crazy, right? And Mandy's like, what? We had pens. I'm like, since when? Like third grade? What? Like, I go, ah, yeah, I'm, yeah. Ooh, no, that's an interesting take on it. Yeah. Ink was only for drawing on the desk. I remember the desk thing. That I remember people like going over something so much that like a name or initials or something was like embedded into the desks. Yeah. We ain't that damn old. Jeez. Oh no, that's a pretty valid point he has right there. Um, Honestly, schools were pretty motivated to get kids past, even if they were completely dumb, to just send them on, and just so that way they could get that income. It was, yeah, that's legit. they wouldn't necessarily correct it, but they wanted to give you the best chance possible to be able to get it right. If you suddenly realize like, nope, that's not it, then and get a chance to fix it. Where pen is pretty pretty permanent. You go with whatever you first put down, even if you realize like, nope, that's not it. Yeah, yeah. Riley's correct. That's for sure with me and Phil. We grew up in the land of the motor car. So basically, if you could put the nut on the bolt, that's all you need to know. You just need to know how to do that and do your taxes. That's pretty much all. The rest of the stuff you'll probably figure out eventually, but go work for the auto company, make your money, stand in the pit with a car coming over top of you, and just put the nuts on the bolts, and you'll be all right. And that was actually considered a good job back in the day too. Well, they did. Back in the day, back in like the 50s and 60s, they used to have classes that taught all the different stuff, like the Constitution, what your given rights were, and all that kind of stuff. And you ended up with a bunch of people who ended up wanting to manipulate the government because they didn't like something they heard in it. And then, like the next generation, like that great generation, decided enough of that nonsense and dummied everything down. Hey, have a good one, Riley. I'll probably get your bracelet out on Tuesday, I'm thinking, because I need to finish this stuff up um, tomorrow and work on one of the bracelets, and then Monday I'll work on a bracelet, so I get a picture by then. So yeah, it will be out soon. What did I miss about Doctor Strange? Why is that? Oh yeah. I have strict schedules to adhere to. Oh, Phil, do you have Steam? And if so, do you have the Master Chief Collection? It's a gaming platform, girls. Us boys, sometimes we like to play the games. I was just asking if you have the Master Chief Collection on Steam. I have it now, and I forgot just how much I actually enjoy playing Halo. So check it out. We are hitting the end of this bracelet here. And you can recognize it's the end because it's the same as that first diamond that we started with. But this time it actually has little tails on it, so you know it's done. I love the way that the colors shuffle through in this pattern. It was definitely like early on, it was one of my favorite patterns to play with. But like I said, I used to do 5 colors, which is a bit smaller, and to make up for it, I started out with doing the chevrons at the beginning and the end. But with 6 colors, I think it's actually a bit longer doing it this way. I think this might actually be almost anklet length. Yeah, your prime minister over there, Rainbow, is definitely a Muppet. when you look back and you think of like the generations where there was so many smarter people and so much other stuff going on in the country, how did we go from that to this? How do you go from, you know, did we just glamorize and think that early generations were smarter, or has this really been what it is, and that now we just have media to highlight everything? There we go, kids. So there starts out lighter and gets darker and darker as it goes down the line. That's one of the things I like about the this pattern in particular, is the way that the color kind of travels through it and changes. And that's what's going to happen with the next bigger project. So I need to finish this one tomorrow, and then I can start putting together the shorter video and get that out. I definitely don't want to make it so that way the shorter videos are all everybody watches. I really think that we can have a lot more fun with the live stream, but I want to be able to make it so that way there's something for people who just don't have the time for the long stream. So that being said, I am out for tonight. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters for making this stuff possible. Without you guys, none of this would have been possible. So thank you very much. And I will be back again next Saturday with the next part of this series, where I'm going to show you a doubled up version of this, and why and how that kind of works, and why that won't be what will be in the bigger project. So yeah, all kinds of things planned out and ready to do. So all right, catch you guys in the next one. And oh, don't get your strings in a bunch.